Greetings, my excellent friend.
Welcome to Heavy Metal.
History.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to part 2 of May of 1987. As you hopefully remember from the last episode, we talked about Anvil, we talked about Death, and we talked about Halloween. So, this week, we're going to continue on with that. We're going to be talking about 3 bands. I think we already said what they were at the end of the episode, so we're just going to kind of get right into it. Obviously, I'm your host, Dustin, and with me, as always, is Matt.
Yeah, g'day everyone. We've got a very, very diverse range of albums today.
I think, yeah, that's extremely diverse. It's kind of crazy that we're talking about these 3 albums. The fact that they came out in the same month.
Exactly. Everything, it's all like on the opposite ends of the spectrum compared to the other ones. So I'm really looking forward to get to diving into it.
Yeah, so I guess the first band that we're going to talk about is this band called Heathen. The album's called Breaking the Silence. The funny thing, I guess right off the bat, about this album is they're kind of like Anvil-esque. If you look at their career and the fact that they never really quite made it, but they kept trudging along after this record, even though they had like a ton of member changes and they weren't particularly breaking the mold of thrash metal, you know, they were just kind of status quo.
Yeah, it really goes to show just how saturated the marketplace really was when it came to thrash metal in the late 80s. I mean, we talk about just how many deathcore bands there were in like the end of the 2000s.
I was literally about to say that. It's kind of the exact same thing as the deathcore explosion. It's just like everybody trying to do run of the mill, you know, breakdowns.
Not to put shit on like anyone, but like this band kind of reminds me of like, say, the bands in the tier of like A Different Breed of Killer or like The World We Knew.
Oh shit, I have not heard those names in forever. Different Breed of Killer, they were from Knoxville. They were like a local band when I was around the Chattanooga area. They would always play with Whitechapel because they were friends with those dudes.
Yeah, so it's like like those bands, like people know them, but then they probably only did like 1 or 2 albums before like they kind of just fell away.
Yep.
Because there was really nothing there.
And you know, the crazy thing about this band too is like they weren't necessarily unsuccessful with this record. I mean, the record in total, it sold 100,000 copies, which is pretty damn good. I mean, you don't see bands nowadays selling 100,000 copies.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I mean, for when it came out, I'm sure it was great, but this album to me, I feel like it hasn't aged well. Yeah,
it's, you know, I think they did a re-release of it. The re-release sounds a little bit better, but it's exactly like we were saying with Anvil. It's just this kind of middle of the road. Like, all right, I get what they're doing. It's not something I'm going to listen to. But I will say too, like for it being their first record, it's a pretty solid first record. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, as opposed to like some of the other first records that we're talking about that definitely haven't aged well and and came out like, you know, with poor reception at the time. This to me, like it's good on its first listen, but wouldn't give it another one.
Yeah, and the thing that I was going to say too is like, you know, with Anvil, that was like their 4th record, so they had no excuse really to still be kind of doing that with the 4th record. Whereas this is the band's first record. I'm sure they'd been kind of working on these songs a little bit and trying to like, you know, figure out something a little different, but it just didn't quite hit. Like it's got something to it, but it's not entirely, you know, like.
Yeah, exactly, and it's not because, you know, the production's bad or the players aren't good or just the songwriting. There's just something about it where it just doesn't really speak to me, but that's just me.
Yeah, and you know, unfortunately, like because this band they weren't really prevalent. I was just doing research. I wasn't able to find anything else about the record, so that's why, you know, we're sitting here kind of basically in a sense reviewing the record. You know, that's just because there's no information about like how they recorded it, where they recorded it. It's a very obscure band and record in a sense. So that's pretty much all we got. I mean, I think it's worth mentioning on the episode for sure, just to get people to kind of go back and listen to it and maybe like, just check it out. I don't see a problem just kind of checking out, as the progression of something evolves. It's definitely has its place in thrash metal.
One thing about this album is that it was produced by a guy by the name of Ronnie Montrose. Mm-hmm. Now, he was a guitarist who was an American rock guitarist. He basically had his own band called Montrose, and he was in a band called Gamma. But he also did a lot of work with like Van Morrison, Herbie Hancock, Boz Scaggs, just a whole range of just other like really kind of like influential, American musicians as well. So they definitely like hired someone who actually knew what they were doing.
Yeah, and there's nothing quite like finding an old Boz Scaggs record in a dollar bin.
Exactly, yeah. So
yeah. So that guy definitely like had his hand in like those kind of like 70s, 60s, whatever, I guess radio bands. I don't really know a lot about that kind of music, but I'm aware of the names. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, as I said, give it a listen. You'll like it, you might not like it, but you won't regret doing so.
Yeah, I agree. While it doesn't really like hold up well, I do think it's worth a listen. That's one of the things that I enjoy kind of like doing with the podcast is just getting people to maybe just check stuff out even once. And I can definitely see this being one of those records too that like it may not be our thing, but somebody else would check this out and be like, dude, this is fucking cool. Like I like this. And that's fucking awesome. That's kind of what we want to do with this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you like Death Angel and all the other like thrash that we've been talking about, I mean, this one's for you.
Yeah. So that's unfortunately all we have about that record. But that's okay because the next two records we're going to talk about are going to take up a majority of the rest of this episode because they're two pretty epic records, and the two bands couldn't be more fucking opposite of each other.
Yes.
So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go with the good record next. Not that the other one's bad, but we're going to talk about Bathory's Under the Sign of the Black Mark. It came out May 11th of 1987. This fucking album is a game changer in black metal. It took me a long time to get into this band, and for like a dumb reason too. I think it's because the first few songs that I heard was on his later output of stuff where it got a little bit more mellow.
Yeah.
And I was always told that they were a black metal band, and I was like, wait a minute, this is not black metal, And then later on in life, I went back and I was like, oh, I see what he did here.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think, because like you told me we're going to be talking about this album, and I had the same, think of you. I was listening to it. I'm like, where's the Satan worship in the older in kind of the newer albums? But then I think of a couple of days ago you were like, oh yeah, we're going to be talking about this, so I put this on as I was going to bed, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to bed now. I've listened to this album before, but I'm staying up and I'm listening to it from start to finish again.
Yeah, I think there's only like one song on this record that's kind of like slower-ish, but it's got a nice kind of gloom and doom
kind of like hook to it.
Feel, yeah. Shit, I need to look up that song actually real quick, but yeah. So the thing about this album too is there's a lot of weird controversy with the cover. A lot of people think that the cover is a painting, and apparently that's not true. As far as I understood from this interview, I guess, that I read, I didn't put it in the notes, but from what he was saying is that they were watching some play and they were able to, they had this guy all in this getup of like the fucking horns and loincloth and all that shit. And basically in between like the little switchover of the play, they had to run on stage, get him up there and snap as many pictures as they could and then get the fuck back off stage. And if you look at the cover, it does not look like a fucking painting. I don't know why people think that that's a painting. Like, I understand you can do amazing realistic stuff with oil paints, but that is clearly a photo.
Yeah. It's just a photo that you've put through, like, essentially you would have like filtered back in the day.
Yeah, it's just got a little bit of grain on it, and yeah, I mean, I can see why people definitely think it's a painting, but I don't know, man. I mean, even if it is a painting and we've got duped, I think that, I don't know. I'm on the side that it's not a painting, just from like the research.
I'm pretty sure that if you were to go around, like, you know, like Scandinavia and start playing this album, some Minotaur Odin looking creature would like come out from like the cliffside like this.
Yeah.
Just like, what are you doing? Did you summon to me?
So the song that I was thinking about isn't actually on this record.
No.
But Blood, Fire, Death, that song's like pretty slow and gloom and doom, but yeah, man. So yeah, so it's pretty interesting, like the fact that the cover alone has that much kind of like back and forth between it, which is pretty interesting. But either way, who knows? Nobody will know because unfortunately, you know, Quothorn passed away or Quorthon. It's black metal names are hard. They're not real names.
Exactly. But either way, it is still a cool looking album cover.
It is. It's you know what I thought it was at first? I thought it was a scene from Conan the Barbarian or something, and they just used it. You know? Yeah. That's what I thought for the longest time.
Like, I know this. I know what I'm going to talk about. Where it came out about like 4 or 5 years after. You know, after this came out, it looks like fucking Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah. Damn, it does. That's pretty badass. I wonder if that's what they took it from. Like one of the designers was really into black metal. He's like, we should make a guy that looks like that.
Yeah, so basically for the audio listeners that don't know what this album cover looks like, it basically looks like Shao Kahn standing atop of a cliff with his, you know, arms raised.
Yeah, he's the victor of Mortal Kombat.
Exactly, like he just, like, you know, rips someone's spine out through their teeth.
This is where we put in the fatality.
Yes. Yeah, let's actually, I mean, what with the actual album?
Yeah, so
I'm sure there's an actual treasure trove of information going on there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff with this. I mean, he recorded it in September of 1986, and this is their third, or his, I don't know, it's weird. It keeps saying there, but I really want to say his because he wrote every bit of music on these records. He wrote it all. He just had other people play some of it. So I don't like saying there, but I understand, you know, giving credit to the people that were involved. But yeah, he is kind of like he's like the guy that kind of started the one-man band thing. Like, yeah, he may not be playing all the instruments, but he wrote most of the stuff on it. So, you know, by this time it's his third record, and the first two records were pretty thrashy, to be honest. You know, they're not quite black metal, but they're like inching on it. It definitely has like, it's starting to get that feel of it. But by the time this record came out, it was like, this is like where, you know, besides Venom's black metal, this is where it started. I mean,
yeah,
there's no other record or band really, maybe like save Mayhem or, you know, Dark Throne.
That didn't come out in like a couple of years after this.
Yeah. Most of those bands came out in the 90s and pretty early 80s, but you know, Merciful Fate too, even a little bit, you could say, captured some black metal essence, but
definitely in aesthetics,
yeah. So, but as far as like the extreme aspect of it, this is where Bathory, like, they created just a total concept of darkness, and it just kind of reached perfection with this record. You know, it's like a blueprint for all the black metal records that kind of came after it. And you know, it's kind of like we talked about with Death, you know, where like that's the start of death metal. Well, this is the start of black metal, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like you can put this album, like same way you can put Death Scream Bloody Gore up to an album. I don't know, say something that's come out like this year, and then this Bathory's album is up to like Behemoth or something like that.
Yeah.
And you can definitely tell like the you know, like the influence there.
Yeah, no, big time. And it's cool that that's kind of stuck throughout the evolution of the genre, you know, like they don't, that's the weird thing about black metal bands is like they don't really skew too far from the formula, but sometimes it's just enough to still make it interesting. At least to me, I don't know. I know I'm more into black metal than you are.
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, if you keep telling me that we're going to be talking about records like this, you're going to get me into black metal.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good. And then with that, like there's some of like, you know, the black metal like I do like, because it kind of really does go more towards this style and less towards like, you know, that symphonic kind.
Yeah,
if
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
like I've seen like Satyricon live a few times, and like Goat Whore especially.
Yeah, I listened to Satyricon Nemesis Divina yesterday. Actually, such a good record. I can't wait to talk about that record.
Yeah.
So getting back to this, you know, I think the main thing too that like why. The reason that black metal kind of evolved like it did, and the reason that this album sounds like it does, is because all the unique kind of soundscapes was basically a result of poor recording resources and lack of skill. You know, all the echo and reverb, it was used to disguise like the limitations with production, and honestly, just some outright mistakes.
It works.
It does. That's why I think like black metal is kind of charming, because it's so lo-fi and you can kind of use that to hide stuff. You know, it's not so fucking overproduced that you're like, okay. That's why like when I hear like you can tell like a black metal album is like way too overproduced. You're just like, huh. Well, yeah,
I'm just trying to think of the name of the album, but I think it was the last one they brought out. You know, Daimu Borgir?
Yeah.
That just seemed way overproduced to me. And it's...
Yeah, was it the Abrahadabra record?
Yeah, the one who apparently it had like 125 like musicians on it, and I'm thinking like that scene from that Walk Hard, that Dewey Cox film.
Oh,
he's,
God.
like on acid, and he's got like all those like people trying to create the masterpiece, and like, I need the Aboriginal percussionist over here.
I need 100 goddamn didgeridoos.
Yeah, that's basically what it reminds me of. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of, you know, when that, I guess we'll go off on a tangent real quick, which is fine. You know, when that album first came out, I wasn't super into it either, because I was like, man, I don't know. It's just like, it's a lot. But over time, I've come back to it, and there's like some really fucking solid, like good songs on there. And then I'm like, well, maybe it's not so bad. But, you know, if you listen to that and then go back and listen to Stormblast, it's like a fucking different band.
Yeah.
Or even Puritania, or Puritanical Misanthropic. I don't know. It's a long fucking title. But that album, you know, that's completely... All their albums are really different up until, like, after In Sorti Diaboli. That's when they kind of, like, started sticking to that very operatic, symphonic style of black metal.
Yeah. But yeah, no, this when you can really tell, you can see just how far black metal's come to that point, and then you see this, it's like it really does. You can really do trace all of its roots essentially back to this album, I reckon.
Yeah, and I think the one song for sure that if you look at the way it sounds and the way it's written, you know, kind of like the ground zero of what started it, it would have to be the song "Call from the Grave."
Yes.
I mean, it's got all those weird, like, dissonant chords, and it's fast, and I mean, that's black metal. I know that's not a
like,
good description, but if you listen to any black metal, you kind of know.
Yeah, and they've all got that, that kind of that riff that will kind of go on like forever, and it'll be like a really just catchy hook, and like that's like "Woman of Dark Desire."
Mm-hmm.
That's such a fucking awesome song.
Yeah. There's that's the thing about this album too, is like usually I'll get pretty bored with a black metal album, but this one, like anytime it's on, I'm like, all right, we're in this. I'm good. I don't need to listen to anything else right now.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I honestly feel the exact same way.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting too, and it might be a little ridiculous to refer to something that's like really raw sounding as mature, because it's a little bit counterintuitive, but it's a pretty well-rounded album, and I think that's what makes it kind of like the Rosetta Stone for black metal. And raw is kind of the only adjective like really connecting what is considered like early black metal. But that's kind of that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, and like if you were to record this album today by today's standards with today's skilled producers and engineers and mixers and everything like that, I'm not quite sure if you'd still keep its charm.
Yeah.
That it has.
Yeah, I think a lot of producers and engineers would have a hard time trying to figure out how to capture that like raw sound. Like it doesn't work the same. I mean, obviously you'd have to probably go back and find like, archaic like equipment and do it that way. But I mean, it still takes a lot of the fun out of it in a way. I don't know. Yeah, I'm really curious to see how like Dark Throne still records their stuff, and even that last Mayhem album, it sounds pretty raw, but at the same time, like you can tell it's got like a bit of a produced quality to it as well, and you're like, huh, okay, how did they do that?
Yeah, exactly.
The original title of this album was supposed to be Nocturnal Obiet. Oh my god, Obeisance. I fucking hate some of these big words sometimes.
Goddamn Europeans.
Obeisance. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
But the album title pretty much got discarded because it didn't look right. So the working title for the album would be given to its intro song. And that's, I guess kind of like the last thing, kind of what I was talking about earlier is like, he had a lot of this stuff written, but he had other people in mind that he kind of wanted to help him out, like play this stuff. So I have like a little, interview here that I'm going to read about him, how he kind of brought everything together. So basically, what he's saying is, he's talking about, I forgot who he's talking about. I guess the other guitar player, maybe the drummer. It was a drummer. So when he was trying to get the drummer, he said, initially he was really not too keen on helping me out once he heard some of the guitar demos I had made. The pace of some of that material was relentless for those days, which I agree with.
100%.
And he said he'd never be able to play that fast, but we soon realized that this was a recording and there were enough natural stops here and there in the tracks for us to take a break and then start recording again after a few minutes of rest. So that's how a lot of those tracks were recorded, in little sections. And when he didn't like the sound of the snare or the crash in one section, or thought that he had not been tight enough in some parts, he had great fun in trying to like manually overdub bits here and there with a cheap drum machine. So though in doubt at first, I know it was a memorable and enjoyable experience for him, which meant a lot when I would call him up for later albums. So I think that's the only other guy he brought on to record this album was a drummer, which... I mean, drumming's hard, so I don't really blame him.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's like when we talk about like this album is fast for those days. Keeping in mind, like we've had like that Death Angel album come out, and that was played by like a 17-year-old kid.
Yeah, seriously.
I think it's more or less something, just like a theme that I'll always harp on about the differences between the European style of writing and playing and recording metal compared to like Americans back in like the 80s.
Yeah, this is one of those cases where the
where European sensibilities mix with, American brashness.
Yeah, the geographic location plays heavily into like the playing style, and it's very apparent on this record. The drummer's name, by the way, was Paul Lundberg, so that's who he brought on to play drums. And he did have an additional bass guitar player named Krister Sandstrom. So those are the only people that really played on the record, but he did everything else himself. He wrote all the guitars, vocals, bass, synthesizer. He produced it. He mixed it. He did the cover design. This was like his, project.
Yeah.
So I guess, kind of last couple of things to talk about is, I guess as far as like how it stands up, like you can't really overlook this album ever.
Yeah. Don't. It stands up 100%. Go listen to it now. Obviously pause this, listen to it, then come back. But yeah, like I said, as for someone that is still kind of on the fence with black metal, doesn't really particularly like it all that much, and has very kind of like, very kind of like niche tastes in it. Mm-hmm. I dig this.
Yeah, it's not, it's not very overwhelming of a record too, like it's got enough change of pace in it to where like it's not just like a relentless screaming black metal record like a lot of stuff would end up being.
Yeah, it is in 30 minutes of blast beats.
Yeah, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
And then there was something else I was thinking about with this record. There is a song on here that's like for the namesake of Bathory, like it's about Elizabeth Bathory.
That's fucking Woman of Dark Desire.
Yeah, I meant to bring that up earlier when you mentioned it, and then I just got like too on a tangent. But yeah, man, this fucking record is so good, and it's another one of those cases too, man, where it's kind of a bummer this guy passed away, because I would be excited right now in 2017 to see what kind of music he would still be making, if anything, because some of those guys just kind of don't care after a while. Or would he be like a Fenriz, and just keep putting out like Darkthrone records? Oh,
and for all of these who don't know who Elizabeth Bathory is, she was basically she was around about the 16th century, about 16th, 17th century, Hungarian royalty and serial killer.
Yeah, she would bathe in people's blood.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking metal.
I wonder if like she would save her period blood and like try to bathe in that.
Don't.
Especially back in that day, dude, they didn't have tampons or nothing. They just had to bleed all over their shit.
Exactly. Yeah, they probably had to like it's a bunch of hair from like like basically bundle it all together and then shove it right up. No.
So yeah, that's it for that record. What's funny is like
speaking. I was gonna
a couple albums after this Bathory record, he would go on to invent like a new kind of subgenre of music with like Viking metal. Like bands like Amon Amarth claimed these days. Like Bathory was also responsible for that genre as well. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. But I mean, before we were talking about, girls.
Girls?
Girls.
Oh, girls. Yes, that's right. So if you have Bathory, which is like the epitome of black metal, what we have here is the complete fucking opposite, with guys who dress like girls,
drive motorcycles, and drink and fuck a lot.
I was hoping you were going to say girls again, so that way we could just keep doing that. No, it's cool. But yeah, cool, man. But Motley
the album
Crue.
we're going to talk about now is going to be "Girls, Girls, Girls" by Motley Crue.
Yeah, I have a vintage "Girls, Girls, Girls" tour T-shirt from 1987. So,
oh, nice.
That's kind of an interesting, like, man, that shirt's as old as I am. fucking weird thing.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's that's pretty cool because like I'm not the world's biggest fan of Motley Crue, but when it comes on, like I'll rock out to it. And I even went to go see them on their last tour here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was about 2 years ago.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like, there's certain songs of theirs that when they come on, I'm like, oh yeah, like Kickstart My Heart. That fucking song rules.
Yeah,
it's got a good like riff to it and everything.
Yeah, that like Dr. Feelgood, like
all
right. So the thing with Motley Crue is, and especially with this album is you've had like albums like Shout the Devil '83 and then Theatre of Pain in '85. Those were awesome.
Yeah.
Then you had Dr. Feelgood in '89. This album,
87,
although it falls in the middle and it's got some fucking banger songs, it's kind of compared to those
mess.
4 albums, it's really kind of the odd man out.
Yeah, and I think the main reason for that is because this is when they were like really, really, really like fucked up all the time. This is where they're like, Vince Neil's trying to stay sober but failing miserably, and this is according to Nikki in The Dirt. And meanwhile, Nikki is addicted to heroin. Tommy Lee is living with Heather Locklear and also addicted to drugs. Mick Mars, he's suffering from that disease that he has. It's like a chronic type of arthritis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then he's on booze and pills, so it's like none of these guys are sober whatsoever. Like they're just constantly fucked up, and they're huge at this point.
Oh yeah, and this is '87. That was basically glam metal was it in America. Apart from when you consider thrash was the underground.
Yeah,
it was because of glam metal and hair metal by nature, of just how it tried to basically have kind of loud guitars, but it was very kind of like pop, hooks to the songwriting, and then kind of the kind of the fashion from like 70s glam rock.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I will say is like the kind of glam metal stuff, like it does share a lot of similarities with like thrash and stuff like that, but the visual representation is so vastly different that you have guys wearing makeup and long hair and hairspray and but they're still playing like pretty fast guitar stuff, and they're like slamming these amazing guitar solos down, and it's it's not screeching like kind of harsh vocals like thrash does a little bit, but they're very similar. But despite like the outward appearance, that's probably really the only thing that's completely different is the visual representation of the two genres. Yeah,
and plus, it was really just a lot of the songs. I mean, it was definitely we talk about LA like thrash metal coming from the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah,
a lot of I would imagine glam metal really did come from LA, and it really does show in its music.
Yeah, I mean
that everything is on the surface, but then if you really kind of look into it, as you saying before, you've got these guys like dressed up with like goofy big hair and like lipstick and like Bret Michaels looking all pretty and all that. There's still some really good they're absolutely just able to really nail a guitar solo.
Yeah, entirely. Like there's
like a fucking good one at that.
I know we're probably going to be skipping over like a pretty big chunk of hair metal because there's some bands in there that I'm just kind of like Faster Pussycat and stuff like that I'm just like, I'm not really going to touch on this. But those guys like were excellent guitar players. Like they know how to play their instruments pretty damn well. Like Poison, I don't think we're really going to talk about Poison. Maybe we might. No. I don't know. I'm on the fence about that one. I really don't even want to talk about Guns N' Roses, but we're gonna...
Yeah, I can tell. I know you're doing pretty much everything you can to avoid talking about them.
No, it's cool. I think I can be impartial enough to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, despite all those like drug problems, they tried their best to like kind of get this record going. Unfortunately, I think another thing that plagued them is like how with the first few records they partied together, they wrote together. At this point, they had splintered by the time they started writing, and they were just kind of like an autopilot. And, they were trying to hide all their problems from the world. They were attempting to keep their personal demons from each other, Nikki Sixx, from the dirt, he's saying in the studio we were mixing out drugs with something we had never combined them with before: guilt, denial, and secrecy. So, I mean, combined with all that stuff, man, these guys are probably just fucking paranoid. Nobody's on the same page. I can imagine it was such a fucking shit show trying to record this, and that's why the record is all over the place.
Yeah, to me, the first 3 songs really do stand out, but then it just absolutely just falls apart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's. Yeah, I don't even know how to explain it, really. I mean, yeah, it falls apart is pretty good. Yeah. So, they started recording with producer Tom Werman in November of 1986, and mostly used 3 studios, One-on-One Recording and Conway Recordings in Hollywood, and then Rumbo Recorders in Canoga Park. And then, from the start of the sessions, everything was a disaster. Members didn't show up or come to the studio, or they would show up so wasted they couldn't even play their fucking instruments. So, I mean, yeah, it's just so much they should not have recorded this record. It almost feels like.
Yeah.
It's not a case where it comes down to were these guys partying as hard or as much as Black Sabbath when they were doing technical ecstasy?
It needs to. Does it pass the Sabbath test? And I think this album does not pass the Sabbath test. Whereas the amount of drugs you consume somehow makes an album. Can you still create a decent album?
Yeah, that's true. Because I
feel the gradients on the axes of the graph are the other way.
yeah. Because if you look at the album that Sabbath put out when they were just high as fuck all the time, it's a good album. This one's all over the place. So I guess since Nikki Sixx was the primary songwriter, he was pretty much the most detrimental to the band's continuing success, because at one point management from the band tried to stage an intervention with some celebrity drug counselor named Bob Timmons, and obviously nobody really wants to be faced with an intervention. So Sixx he stormed out, and Timmons caught up with him and agreed to help him kick heroin without going to rehab. So basically what he's saying is that they drove back to his house, threw away all the needles and spoons and drug residue, and that was the same night that he wrote Dancing on Glass.
Good song, that one.
Yeah. I guess, he kind of wrote it about having an overdose in Europe, so.
Yeah.
He had some, that's the other thing too, is these guys definitely have the inspiration, I guess, to write a bunch of songs, because they have been hit with multiple overdoses and all kinds of fucked up stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just to go on a bit of a tangent, we talk about musicians, we talk about drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to someone last night about just about British people and their drugs, but yet they still don't die.
Yeah.
But no one, and I don't think anyone could really hold a glass up to Iggy Pop as far as being a musician and drugs.
Yeah, I mean, he was even partying with David Bowie for the longest time, man. So that's that's legendary in itself.
I feel like if you were to take all of the concoction of drugs that Motley Crue would have done in their heyday, all 4 of them, and then just make it into a big needle for Iggy to inject in his heyday.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he'd just walk it off.
Yeah,
and that's saying something.
Maybe. I'm not really entirely sure. I know he did a lot of drugs, but there was a certain point where he stopped too. Whereas I think these guys kept going for the longest time.
Yeah,
but I could be wrong. I haven't looked too much into Iggy Pop's personal life as far as how much drugs he did. But I believe you. I definitely know he did a lot at one point.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Getting back more onto about this album. and just the drugs that Nicky Six was using. I mean, although he was still using, he was able to. He curbed the abuse to a point where he was able to function. He actually wrote most of the music on all 9 of the original tracks.
Yeah.
And he pitched the idea to Lee for the big songs, which were on this album, which were Wild Side and Girls, 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 the title of the album.
Yeah, which I think is probably like, the most memorable track off the record, for sure.
Oh, for sure. For sure, yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting that, again, there's this one guy that kind of has to take the brunt of all the work in the band, and he's also the guy that's like the most fucked up.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah, and that's saying something.
Yeah, and it is a feat, the fact that he pulled it off in a sense, he did the best he could with the faculties that he didn't have.
Yeah, exactly. But but this album, I mean, it really is like you look at it, and we've been going on about this theme before. It really is just an uneven effort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty all over the place.
Yeah, like most of the songs on this, I mean, they're probably more like bluesy than glam, especially like after the first 3 songs, and you'll definitely hear a lot of kind of Aerosmith influence in it.
Yep. Yeah, I think that they weren't trying to write a glam record maybe at this point, that they were just trying to write a record and get it out, because there's definitely a lot of filler. There's even like that short acoustic thing, Nona, and then the piano ballad, You're All I Need, and then a live cover of Jailhouse Rock. Like, who the fuck wants...
Who the fuck cares about Jailhouse Rock?
Yeah, especially from Motley Crue.
This isn't the early 80s. You don't... Yeah, this isn't the early 80s where you need to basically have a cover, of a song in order to get new listeners in, because, that's how you attract people, because there's no such thing as marketing or, film clips or anything like that. So... Yeah. What the hell?
Yeah, I guess... again, I know we keep quoting The Dirt, but I mean, that's where a lot of this information came from, because it's probably the book that has the most information for the band and all their efforts. But Six was saying, Theater of Pain, Girls, Girls, Girls could have been a phenomenal record, but we're too caught up in our own personal bullshit to put any effort into it. You can actually hear the distance that had grown between us in our performance. If we hadn't managed to force out 2 songs out of ourselves, Wild Side and the title track, the album would have been the end of their careers. And maybe that's true, maybe it isn't, because if you look at this record and you see the sales that it had, fans didn't give a shit. The disc debuted at number 2, and the album eventually went quadruple platinum.
Yes, and the only reason it didn't go number 1 was because Whitney Houston's second album that just came out.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't fuck with Whitney Houston, so...
Exactly, no. She was pretty badass for the time.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's still amazing to me that, they got that many sales off of a pretty half-assed record.
Oh, dude, it was we talk about glam metal essentially just being pop with loud guitars, and you can really just tell that all this was just a pop album. I mean, we can go on about how much regular recording artists that are in that kind of genre, I don't know, who's big. Who's one of the big pop stars now?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't listen.
Well, either way,
Taylor Swift.
Oh no, I like Taylor Swift though, and all of her songs are there for a meaning. They're all good. Let's say Katy Perry or someone like that. They'll only ever have the singles, and then the rest is filler. But then it will still sell quadruple platinum, and it'll still say it was a good album just because of the 4 singles. 4 or 5 singles that are on that album that all get turned into $1 million film clips. So
yeah, which is crazy to me that people will buy a record just based on 2 or 3 good songs. I've never done that before. If there's a record that has 1 good song on it, then I'll just get that 1 song.
Yeah, I mean, especially now with digital, but back then, I mean, you
True.
had to essentially get the album, and that's what it was. I'm sure they probably would have had like one of those like B-side like cassettes.
Yeah, to get like just the songs that everybody wanted to hear, and then that counts more towards record sales for them as well. Crazy
Exactly,
enough.
yeah. So there's a bit of trickery going on there.
Yeah. This is a good little gambit there when you think about it. It's like, oh shit, get more fucking record sales.
Exactly, man. Exactly. But yeah, no, like those first two songs of this album are still like staples in their live set. And when I went to go see them, they're actually, I think Wild Side was like the second song, and then like Girls was like somewhere in the middle from what I remember.
Okay.
Of it. But yeah, that was actually a phenomenal show. And I think it had like 30,000 people, like stadium. Sold out. I think, I went with an ex-girlfriend at the time, and it was like, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, I've never seen them. I didn't really ever have like a desire to either, but
Yeah,
I think
I went because she wanted to like go, because she was like obsessed with Motley Crue.
Mhm.
This was the same girl that I remember I was telling you a few episodes about, that like fought that girl at the Dead Kennedy show.
Oh, oh wow.
Yeah. So yeah, she was like, yeah, we should go, and I'm like, I'll get tickets, and I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. I don't want to particularly pay for it, so you can do it. But no, it was actually a really fun night, and it was a really good way to see off one of, not only glam metals, but like one of the the biggest metal bands in the world, especially at their peak.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, I know that there was a festival we did that they were going to be playing, and I was like kind of curious to go see them, but I was like, I don't really know if I care that much, so I didn't go do it.
Yeah.
I ended up watching like some black metal band or something instead, but I don't.
Nice.
I don't really know if I'd really care to see them live, to be honest. I do know the coolest thing was always when we would play the fucking place on Sunset Strip, the Whiskey. It's cool to know that that's where they started, and they even have like banners all over the place that say "Home of Motley Crue" and like all that shit. And I was like, yeah, man, that's fucking cool that this little club on the Sunset Strip was like such a hub for this band, and this is where like they got their start because they could pack that place out every week or whatever.
Yeah. Tangent, like a bit of a side note thing. The show Metalocalypse?
Yeah.
So essentially, the guy created Dr. Roxo based upon the combination of Paul Stanley and Vince Neil.
Huh. I always thought it was what's his name from
Sammy Hagar?
No, it was not Hagar.
David Lee Roth.
Yeah, I always thought it was David Lee Roth and Paul Stanley.
Oh, well, either way, I really do see some Vince Neil in there as well.
Yeah, I guess I could see some of that too. Maybe it's all three of them.
Yeah. But either way, just for kids that if you never really listened to glam metal, didn't know what it's about, it basically is Dr. Roxo.
Yeah. Yeah, it is big time. I want to do some cocaine.
Oh, it's such a good show.
Yeah, I'm bummed that it's not going to come back, but that's what happens, man.
Oh,
TV's an ugly
business. It had its run. Exactly. Though, what have you got here? This list.
All right, everybody. I hope you're prepared for this, because we are about to read 37 facts about Motley Crue. That's right, 37.
Now, this is. I feel like this could be really good, or this could come into BuzzFeed territory really quick.
There is some pretty funny stuff on here, so I figure like whatever, we'll read some of it, and if it starts getting dumb, we'll just quit. But I think there's some
we'll see if we can make it through the 37, because half this shit, like I'm reading through it now, and there's no way this could fucking happen.
Who knows, man? All right, so we're gonna trade off on some of these, we're gonna trade off just back and forth on them, and in between, maybe I'll edit like some drum rolls or some shit in between each one. So I guess I'll start it off. So, 37 facts about Motley Crue. Number 1. One of Tommy Lee's girlfriends in the band's early days, nicknamed Bullwinkle by the other guys, had a raging temper. One time, she threw a fire extinguisher through the band's apartment window when Lee locked her outside.
How does she get a fire extinguisher from the ground up to an apartment?
It could have been on the first floor.
True.
There's not a lot of two-story places in LA.
All right. The second fact we've got here is that the band's Sunset Strip apartment actually had a major roach problem, and they couldn't afford pesticides. So what they used to do, they used to get a bunch of like lighters and hairspray to exterminate the bugs, or if they were using the oven, they just leave it on high for 10 minutes to kill any roaches inside first.
That seems extremely dangerous. Like just leaving a stove on for 10 minutes. Holy crap!
No, just leave the oven on. It's fine. And just use all that hairspray and the cigarette lighters. That's fine.
Oh my god! All right, number 3, the Los Angeles County Department of Health Services had to force the band members to remove all the garbage they let pile up on their back patio of their Sunset Strip apartment. I can only imagine that was mostly beer cans and ladies' underwear and condoms.
Oh no, they wouldn't have been using condoms. It was the 80s.
Well, I think they would have. AIDS. Maybe.
Oh, yeah, probably like by like 80, 85.
Yeah. Maybe. Who knows, man? Maybe they were just like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. And in those days, they didn't even have money to buy toilet paper. So what they used to do, they used to get socks, band flyers, and magazines.
Oh, man. I wonder if any of them used a Bible.
Maybe.
All right, number 5. One time, Tommy Lee betted a lady just to drive her Jaguar, while Nikki Sixx and Vince Neil watched them in action. I'm sure they were all into that kind of stuff. I'm sure they watched each other fuck like all the time.
Yeah.
And now they probably own Jaguars, so it's like, dang, I had to sleep with this lady just to drive her Jaguar, and now I'll probably own like 2 of them.
Exactly, yeah. One thing I've got here is that Sixx, Neil, and Lee once doused a tree in the courtyard and set fire to it just for fun.
That does seem fun. I'm with them on that. I would probably do that. All right, number 7. Tommy Lee slept with the studio engineer to get some free time to record the band's first songs, including Stick to Your Guns, Nobody Knows What It's Like to Be Lonely, and Toast to the Town. Now, the interesting about this one is it does not specify whether it was male or female.
I was going to say, yeah, I'm not going to be sure, but who's who, but yeah.
And I know it sounds sexist, but I mean, I've not heard of many women studio engineers, but maybe it was a woman. No judgments either way, but maybe
exactly, and like
maybe he just sucked a dick a little bit to get those songs out.
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. LA's a tough town. It'll spit you back out if you're not willing to do what it takes.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta have a penis in your mouth.
Exactly. Mick Mars had a habit of biting Lee's nipple.
That's weird. Why would he do that?
No further comment.
Number 9. At their first show at the LA Club Starwood, a guy in the crowd spit a loogie that landed on Neil's white leather pants. Vince Neil hopped off stage and started fighting him, and Nikki Sixx backed him up, cracking his bass guitar against another guy's shoulder. I mean, what do they expect? Yeah. You can't fuck with the band on stage.
Exactly. Vince Neil once bought cocaine off a drag queen for $20. It turned out to be baby powder, and then when he couldn't get his cash back, he got into a bar fight with the dealer.
Is he surprised? Like, really surprised? Come on, man. $20 for cocaine?
No.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap. He should have just fucking tasted it before he left. All right. Number 11. Fed up with a long-witted punk rock poser hanging at the band's house, Nikki Sixx grabbed the guy and nailed his earlobe to a table. Isn't that technically assault?
These are not nice people.
No. I mean, I already kind of knew that.
These are not nice people. I mean, especially with number 12 about how, like, Dixie Six tried to hook up with Tommy Lee's mum. These are not nice people.
I mean, was Tommy Lee's mom hot?
Doesn't matter.
I guess. All right. Number 13. The band recorded Too Fast for Love in 3 days, drunk the whole time. I don't know if that's necessarily an achievement. I mean, when you consider that it took them 3 days to do one song, fucking Black Sabbath recorded 2 albums in that amount of time, basically.
Yeah. That's just sad.
Yeah. 3 days because they were drunk. They could have done it in like a fucking hour if they weren't drunk.
Exactly. If they weren't busy, nailing people's earlobes at tables.
I will say, it kind of makes me want to go back and listen to that song now to see if I can hear like how much, like shit they had to edit and change and switch around because of how long it took. Because I'm sure it was a lot.
So apparently one time Nicky Six got into a fight with bikers. He even hit one of the guys in the face with a chain he was using as a belt, and it turns out they were undercover cops.
Woo.
He was hit several times with clubs, resulting in a black eye and a broken cheekbone. And after those bails made, that inspired to write he was inspired to write the song "Knock 'Em Dead, Kid."
Man, why the fuck would you not only hit a biker, because those guys aren't to be fucked with, but the fact that he turned out to be an undercover cop, that's even more of a fuck up. It's a pretty big fuck up. So number 15, fucking with cops again. After a cop was giving the band grief at a bar, the guys drank up and took painkillers, saw that the window was rolled down on his patrol car, and they pissed on his seat. I mean, that's not too bad. It's a little childish, but if I had the chance, I'd probably piss in a cop's car. Fuck cops.
Oh, no. Got something here. One time Nick Six got so wasted and stumbled into his Porsche naked, and then when he was spotted by fans, he sped off and crashed his car into a telephone pole.
Oh, man. What a dumbass. All right, number 17. Motley Crue was so unruly when it was the opener on a Kiss tour that Gene Simmons fired the band. Can you fire a band? I know you can like kick them off a tour, but you can't really fire them.
They've probably got kicked off. But either way, if that's Kiss and Gene Simmons calling someone unruly,
yeah, because I mean
you've got problems.
Yeah, because Paul Stanley was pretty unruly. So how the fuck? I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard those. Yeah, those drunken.
Guys want to get kissed? Come to backstage.
Oh, it's Cogent time again.
Oh, God. All right, so something I've got here is while the band was on tour with Ozzy Osbourne dared Six to urinate in the back of the floor and lick it up. So Six peed and Osbourne ended up drinking Six's urine.
Yeah, how did he... That's a bad prank. Like, haha, man, you should, pee and lick it up. Ah, fuck you, I'm going to outdo you, and I'm going to lick up your pee. Like, you just played a prank on yourself. Like, not even a good one. Ozzy. How fucked up was he?
What are you doing, mate? He was so super fucked up, apparently. I mean, there's another Osbourne thing here, man.
Yeah. So, continuing with that, these guys must have been peas in a pod. While they were on tour in Memphis with Osbourne and Vince Neil stole a car, took it for a joyride around Beale Street, and then smashed the windows and gutted the upholstery. See, that's the point where you can tell these guys had like fuck you money, because they could just do shit like that and get away with it.
Yeah,
I'm sure at most.
I mean, I'm sure if you were put in a situation where you had just had fuck you money, you would probably steal a car and just fang it around, do donuts.
Yeah, because I mean, at most I'd just have to pay like $1,000 fee and like buy somebody a new car.
Yeah, buy another couch, you rich motherfucker.
Yeah. Oh man,
fuck your couch. One of Tommy Lee's girlfriends sold intimate pictures of them to a porn magazine without Tommy Lee's knowledge, And then when he confronted her about it, she suggested they get married.
I think that's because she knew how giant his dick was. And she did not want to lose that.
Oh, is that the thing? Like, why everyone wants to sleep with him?
Yeah, he's got a giant dick. So she was probably just like, oh, I need to keep that dick.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much money she got for those pictures too, man. Probably quite a bit.
Yeah, it depends on when it was.
True. All right, number 21. We're getting through these pretty fast. This isn't too bad. These are interesting enough. While in England to play a rock tour with Van Halen and AC/DC, Nikki Sixx tackled Eddie Van Halen and bit his bare stomach, while Vince Neil bit his hand. Why did these guys like biting people? Like, what is wrong with them?
It was the 80s. I mean, it was a dark time for everyone involved.
Were they like trying to be vampires or zombies or something? Like,
I don't know. It was probably the full moon, and apparently when you're in Europe, the full moon does silly things to you.
Yeah, it's so silly.
On the European tangent, one night they were restless on a European tour, and Lee and Sixx would break bottles over each other's heads and swallow small light bulbs just for fun.
I call bullshit on this one.
Yeah, that's no way that's real.
Bottles, especially liquor bottles, are fucking hard to break.
Yes.
And you would be giving each other concussions. Not only that, swallowing a small light bulb just for fun, no, that's going to break in your bowels. You're going to shit out broken glass. It's not going to come out whole. I call bullshit.
There's no way that can happen.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no fucking way. Man, who... I wonder where that started, that rumor. Huh. All right. Well, number 23, still in Europe, in Germany, the band threw 2 beds out of their hotel window on top of a couple of Mercedes. I think the Mercedes might be bullshit, just to give the story like a little extra punch, but I feel like they probably threw some beds out of their hotel window.
Yeah, because that was back in the day when you didn't require a credit card, deposit, and you could be traced. You could actually do, rock and roll shit.
Yeah, that's true, man. That's why all that hotels... You see, guys, that's why you can't fuck up hotels anymore, because the band's ruined it for all of us. They just fucked up too many hotels.
Exactly, and then the hotel industry all got together and it's like, nope, we can't, no fun for anyone. I mean, granted, there was one time I fucked up a hotel room, but that's, neither here nor there.
Yeah, I've probably left them, like, pretty dirty, but I don't know if I necessarily fucked any of them up.
Oh, no. I'm pretty sure, like, I broke a bed and a table and a closet. Well, it was their fucking fault for accepting a cash payment.
Oh, yeah.
And
then you're not liable.
Yeah. Because what happened was, I think it was my 21st, and we got this room in the sketchiest part of the city, especially back then. It's known as King's Cross.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically where all the strip clubs, it's basically where Motley Crue would have hung out.
Okay.
It's got all the strip clubs, all the nightclubs, kind of the dirtiest, grimiest bars, all the assaults, all used to happen around this particular area. It's only maybe about a kilometre long.
Okay.
The main kind of drag of it. And there was this hotel there, and it was about 6 of us, and we're all staying in a room. It had 2 bunk beds, and then there was there was probably about somewhere between 8 to 10 of us, all sleeping in this one room. People just sleeping on the floor, and just bunk beds, and everyone for some reason was just angry that night. So there was teacups were just thrown at people and just smashed. A bed was broken because the bunk bed the top had fallen off.
Okay.
Because I think someone was having sex on the top, and then and then when they hopped off, it just fell down. Someone tried to jump into the closet earlier that day thinking it was Narnia because they were too drunk. And then just a whole bunch of other shit happened. And then when we were leaving the next day, I go down to because before I gave him the cash deposit as a bond, and then I saw where he put it in in the office.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went down to go see him to go check out. And he's like, "Oh, let me just go check the room if you just want to hang out here." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I go upstairs and I'm like, fuck, I'm not going to get my money back at all. In fact, I'm probably going to have to pay extra for what we've done.
Uh-huh.
So I see, the cash deposit I paid the man in his office. He's gone upstairs to go check the room. I just walk in there, just take it and run.
Oh, shit.
And to this day, I have not been contacted. And that was probably about 6 years ago.
Damn, man. It's a pretty good getaway right there. I bet they changed their policy after you.
Exactly. I haven't even gone back to check because I think there might be signs saying do not serve this man.
Yeah, I've done things kind of similar to that where it's like, I probably shouldn't go back in this place because they have similar things like do not serve this person or
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yes. So we've got another Europe story here where apparently Six hooked up with a stranger in England who climbed through his bedroom window.
Again, it does not specify male or female, so do you think Nikki Sixx was just kind of letting dudes just kind of come and go?
Well, I mean, a hole's a hole.
Yeah, especially for them. Probably too drunk to even notice. All right, number 26. Fans threw animal bones, sausages, and darts at the band at a show in London. Where did they get the animal bones from?
It was probably some kind of pub. So that obviously, a lot of pubs, especially. I mean, not only here but also in Europe, they'll often have dart area as well.
Yeah, the darts make sense, but the animal bones and sausages is kind of where I'm like, so
sausages
people willingly.
Well, yeah.
All right. Well, the more you know, especially in London.
The more you know.
Oi! I need 6 sausages to throw at Motley Crue right now.
Okay. Number 27 I have here is that Nikki Sixx was so high during the music video for Home Sweet Home. He wandered underneath the stage and recalls having a conversation about a family, music, and death with an imaginary person.
Yeah, that sounds real.
I'm not even gonna question that. That's real.
I'm gonna go watch that music video after this now and be like, oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah, he really does look like he had, an existential kind of crisis underneath the soundstage.
Oh man. All right. Number 28. Trying to kick his drug habit, Sixx stayed up for nearly 24 hours, shaking, sweating, listening to Lone Justice's self-titled album over and over. I don't know who that is. Never heard it. So I wonder what that sounds like.
Torture.
Yeah, it was either really good or really bad for him.
Speaking of Sixx and drugs, Sixx got so high on heroin, his dealer tried to wake him up by beating him with a baseball bat.
I almost want to call bullshit on that, but I kind of can see it too, because if you see people on heroin, they're notoriously hard to fucking get up once they're in that drug stupor.
Exactly, man. It's the worst.
All right, number 30. We're almost here. We're in the home stretch. While high, Nikki Sixx urinated on Cheap Trick guitarist Rick Nielsen's jacket. Man, these guys just biting and pissing on everything. They're like dogs.
I feel like that these guys they basically sleep where they drop and they piss where they are.
Yeah.
Number 31 I have here is whilst on cocaine and mushroom somewhere in Texas, Nikki Sixx and Lee hopped into a moving train, then freaked out and jumped out after it picked up speed.
I can believe that. I'm sure they were all fucked up and be like, yeah, man, let's get on this train. And then they started moving. Yeah. They're like, wait a minute. We don't know where this is going to end up.
All those films where it's they're running after the train. One person gets in and the other person can't quite, catch up. So they got to, grab him by the hand.
Oh, man. These guys definitely got into some shenanigans. That's for sure. All right. Number 32. Nikki Sixx was best man at Tommy Lee's wedding to Heather Locklear and was messed up on heroin for the ceremony. It seems pretty run-of-the-mill for them. I mean, especially since this would have taken place around the time of the girls recording, or at least a little bit after. I mean, they were all fucked up on everything.
Yeah. Number 33 we have here is high out and out of his mind on cocaine. Six unloaded a 357 Magnum at his bedroom door when he heard voices on the radio that wouldn't stop talking. I mean, I wish I could do that to talk radio and like morning radio here. Mm-hmm. It's just, first of all, like they banned the guns here, so I can't do that.
That is true. Yeah, no guns for you guys.
No guns for us. We don't like freedom.
It's okay. You guys can keep them in your little safe, right?
Yeah, we can keep them in a little safe. Then we have to keep the bullets in another little safe.
Oh, my God. All right. Number 34. Lee admits that during phone interviews while on the Girls, Girls, Girls tour, he'd sometimes urinate in the bedroom or vomit on the floor.
This goes back to the dogs theory.
Yeah, they're fucking human. They're werewolves or human dogs.
Yeah. Whilst once recording staccato guitar line for Girls, 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 Mick Mars, he finally gets one.
Hey.
Was so drunk he actually fell out of his chair. The take ended up on the record.
All right, I'll go listen for that. He probably still played it.
You probably won't be able to hear it, but it's like, yeah.
All right, number 36. Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx spent a train trip to Tokyo running up and down the aisles, dumping bottles of sake on passengers. When the band's Japanese promoter tried to make them stop, Sixx threw a bottle of Jack Daniels towards him. He missed, and the bottle hit another passenger. Man, these guys are dicks.
Oh my God, no, that's horrible.
Yeah, especially like Japanese people are like some of the calmest, like chill fucking people, and here these assholes are being loud, dumb, drunk Americans.
Big dumb Americans.
Fucking hell! And I bet no Japanese person did anything.
Toilet trained Americans.
yeah, they're like little 5-year-olds stuck in a fucking 30-year-old's body.
And it's like trains are the worst, especially here, but I mean especially in Japan.
Yeah. Because they're so cramped and everything too.
Exactly, yeah. So, that's horrible. And the last one we have here is that even after Sixx nearly died, the man nearly died. Yep. From a heroin overdose in '87. The first thing he did when a couple of fans gave him the lift home was shoot up more heroin. The near-death experience inspired the band to write this most successful songs, "Kickstart My Heart."
There we go. That song, the one that I think is they're one of their best songs. That's how it came about. And we made it through all 37, and those are pretty good. There was some like bullshit there, but it might give some people some talking points.
Exactly, yeah. But the talking point really is Motley Crue, horrible people.
Yeah, they're kind of shitheads.
Decent musicians. Wrote a few good songs.
And I think that's all you need to know about them. So yeah, I guess that wraps it up, man. We did it. We got through May of 1987. It's crazy that all those records came out in the same month. It's such a vast difference of genres in this month that all these records came out. So it's kind of cool to see like where metal is really, really, really starting to branch out in different directions now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's starting not only to get its mainstream, but you can really tell all the different subgenres are really starting to like either start or they're really coming into their own.
Yep. And I guess with that, as usual, follow us on all the social media stuff: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. What else? Is that all we have?
Yeah, you can send us an email and go to the website. It's at Heavy Metal History Podcast. I think the domain's at gmail.com.
Yeah.
You can find me, if you want to just get in contact with myself, at the Matt Jordan on Twitter and on Instagram. Where can people find you, Dustin?
You guys can follow me on MySpace.
Really? Can we get to your Bebo account as well?
Yeah, and I think I have a live journal. If you guys want to follow me on live journal.
Oh my God, live journal.
Yeah, I mean you can find me through all the various links if you want to follow them. If you feel so inclined to get to know me more, I'm pretty pretty open. I'll talk to you about music and shit, I guess. I mean, that's how I got to know Matt. So
That's true.
yeah, and don't forget, guys, we have about a week left in the contest to give away. You can find that on Instagram, or if you want to leave us a review on iTunes,
Go
do it that way too.
Honestly, leave a review on iTunes. It really would mean a lot to us.
Yeah, it helps out more than you guys realize, especially like in getting more like listeners and stuff. You know, the weird algorithms that they use, it's all based on that kind of stuff. So it helps us out a lot, and we appreciate you guys that have done it so far. And we hope you keep listening. We have a bunch of cool stuff in the works as far as guests and things we're gonna do. I'm sure we're gonna do more episodes too that are less like talky about like records and stuff, and we're gonna try and do just more like conversational shit, you know, just to break it up a little bit. So
yeah,
you know, look for that stuff too.
Exactly, man. Well, until then, you have a good day, cunts, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.